Hello again. It's still November, so that means it's still NaNoGenmo, and I'm still working on a couple of novels here. The final thing I want to show you how to do is how to save these as a PDF document, because that's a document. I can generate them in a cell in a Python notebook, but nobody can really read that. It's not really something you can take around and read on the train or whatever else you do with the novel. So I'll show you how to make this a PDF using a couple of new libraries that are really useful, and with a couple of things we can make our novels into something that looks more like a novel, even more like a novel. So first of all, I did figure out one thing. I was, as I suspected near the end of the last video, it turns out that actually my the recipe book was much longer than the Communist Manifesto, and so that's why I kept seeing recipe stuff in the output and not as much communist stuff. So I tried it again, and it is a bit more balanced now, as you can see. It's taking a second here, but let's see. They had to be exploited in common and naturally can come to an immediately following proletarian revolution. Larding consists of introducing small strips of fat, browning the food along course of development. Class distinctions have disappeared and all production has been formed. Fill the body of the bourgeoisie, not only the class whose conditions of existence. Cool mixture and turn into hot serving dish. So yeah, I mean, it's still pretty weird, but it's definitely more balanced in terms, and like more, the communist part is more visible. So the results are, I think, a little bit better. I think the paragraphs are pretty long. I think one thing I'd like to tweak right now is just to make that more frequent, like make the paragraph breaks a bit more frequent. So you remember that's happening with this random integer here. It's going to be happening 6% of the time when I'm having the random int be between 0 and 6. So I mean 0 and 100, and then 6% of the time it's going to be less than 6. So I'm going to make this up to, let's make this higher, like 18. And I think that'll look a little bit better as we wait and see. Yeah. Still a very long opening paragraph there, I guess. I don't know, I feel like those are still pretty long. Let's make that even longer, because these are sentences, so these are already going to be kind of long. Let's make that 36. So now this is going to be happening roughly a third of the time. Yeah, there we go. That's a bit more like it. Okay, now let's make this into a PDF. I'll start my timer. Okay, so there are two libraries we're going to use for this. One is going to be PDFKit. That's going to be something that takes HTML and turns it into a PDF, but we need HTML first. So I'm going to use a library that I just recently found out about called Dominate. It does work pretty well. So it's in GitHub, as you can see, and it's got the instructions just like most well-documented libraries. And so it's the same kind of installation as any other library. Pip install. If you're using it in a notebook, that would be like exclamation point pip install. Just to make sure that it's here before I run this. So yeah, it's already here, so I'm good. But check it out. It's really convenient. So let's see. Now I guess it might actually just be. Then I see there it might actually just be Python 3, but at least I've installed it with Python 3 and it's working with Python 3. If you have Python 2, you might have to do something different. I don't know. Let's find out. Or like you find out and tell me. So we're going to import that thing here, and now there's actually something else you need. There's not just dominate itself, but the dominate.tags function, and then you have different things. So this is going to be referencing HTML tags like H1, P, I, A, all the different HTML tags. Apparently those are separate functions, and so you have to import them all separately, and that's on this line right here. Dominate.tags imports, then the asterisk just means all. Sorry, this is kind of small. Let me make that a bit bigger. Again, I'm just copying the code here from the GitHub library. So import all. Let's take a look at how this goes in here. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and clear the output here because I don't need that. And I'm going to clear the printing of it so that it doesn't print it every time. But I'll at least run the import and make sure that it actually imports. Everything goes okay. Great. No error messages, so I'm good. Don't need this cell anymore, so we'll keep going. Great, so the way that it tells me here, you construct your HTML document in Python code using this kind of syntax here you create the doc as a special kind of dominate object, and then you add different tags to the parts of that document. So it's kind of wonky or a little different syntax than what we might be used to, but copying it and adapting it to what we're trying to do does actually work pretty well. So let's take a look. We need to, now that we've got a thing called novel, but first of all we need to make an HTML container. HTML, you remember, is for web pages, but it's just also a way to organize and present a document, which is what the PDF renderer needs to know before it can render this into a PDF. So let's copy some syntax or copy some examples and then adjust it here. So this line here creates it and gives it a title. I'm going to say You know what? I got it. This should be Recipes for Revolution. So that's the title of this document and my novel. Great. I'm going to save that, and then a couple of things. So with doc head, that's going to create the head for this document. And now I can use, now I can use the tag functions in here. I'm only going to use one. I'm going to use one called style, which is going to be equivalent to the style element in the head of an HTML document. If you don't know HTML and CSS, this would be a little bit weird, but if you just follow what I'm doing, you'll be fine. So we're writing HTML, but writing it in a kind of backwards way here. We're telling a function to write HTML for us, so we don't actually do like angle brackets and things. It handles that part for us. We just need to tell it the information. In this case, I'm giving it style, and I just want to give it, I need to give it the actual basic style codes that I want it to use, the CSS code that I want it to use to render this document. I don't really know what I want yet, so I'm just going to go ahead and write it in here. This is the kind of thing you're going to only make one or two quick tweaks with this. You don't want to do anything very complicated. You can do an external style sheet like you would normally do in HTML development, but just for quick stuff like this, this is fine. So I'm just going to make sure that this actually works. I'll just give it something horrible, background color red, and then text color white. That's going to look terrible, so it'll be very obvious if it works or not. And let's see, nope, that's Markovify. So now I'm going to, go ahead and make something else, some more stuff. All right, I did this a minute ago, and I did something a little different. So let me just check. Oh yeah, so with doc, that's what I'm going to do. And now I'm going to say, now remember I made this novel as a single string, but it has line breaks in it where it's got the \n to indicate that that's supposed to be a paragraph. So if I were to kind of rewrite this thing, what I'd probably do is instead of making it a long list, a long string like that with those delimiters between it, those things just kind of printing them out separately, I would actually probably just make this a list of paragraphs. That would be a bit cleaner for this next part, but because I've already done it this way, I'm going to just take this string that I've already got and then split it into a list as I generate it. So I'm going to say, I'll give it a new name here just to kind of, this is kind of extra verbose, but that's fine. I'm going to take the novel and I'm going to split it on the \n character. So now it's going to be splitting that into those paragraph chunks that we saw when it printed out. So remember that the \n character just means a line break. So we don't see it, it just shows up as that extra space. So now I'm just going to use that to say, now I want this paragraph, now I want this paragraph, now I want this paragraph, and it's going to give me a list that I can iterate through down here when I'm generating it. So I'll say for C in chunked. Now I'm going to use, this is the P, this is a special function that comes from dominate. So this is going to make a paragraph with the content that I pass to it, which is just the chunk, which I'm using with this temporary variable C right there. So I think right here, I think this should construct my HTML document the way that I've got it. Let's find out. There is one final line that you do with this. I think, or maybe not. Maybe it's just, it is what it is, maybe. I don't know, let's find out. So if this is correct, if I understand what it's saying, I should be able to just print doc and then see HTML. So let's see. Oh, great, I do. Very nice. So yeah, so there's my style element that's in there the way I wanted it to be. It's not showing up yet. This is just showing me the source code, which is all I wanted. And yeah, there's my paragraphs. Each paragraph starts and ends with the P. So good. We're making progress. All right, so the final thing we need to do is just take that into a PDF. And so I say just as though that's easy, but really, it is in our sense. We're just going to ask some code to do it. I'm going to use, if I can type, I'm going to use this library PDF kit, and make sure that it's in here. Just like any other library, you can pip install PDF kit, and it should come in. It might already. This one is very common. You might already have it installed. So that if not, of course, try this pip install method and then see if that's necessary. And I don't have the documentation handy for this one, but I do have an example from when I did this earlier from another project. So I've just copied and pasted that line in. And this is what it looks like. So PDF kit is my library that I'm using. I'm going to use the from string variable. So I need to turn this document that I just created into a string temporarily. and then save it as a novel. And the other example I was using is my rainy day example I did a while ago. I called it another rainy day .pdf. This doesn't matter what you call it. I'll just call it revolution recipe.pdf. I think that's fine. The only thing that you may notice is different is instead of passing doc, I'm actually using the doc render function, which I think probably passes that into a string more cleanly. I don't know. It worked, so I'll go with it. Let's see what happens. We're running, doing something. Something's happening. That was my temporary one. Something's happening. It's done. Oh, great. So this is PDF Kit comes on here and it tells me what it's doing. It loaded the pages. It counted the pages. And then it went ahead and printed it. Great. So if it printed that, it should just have put that in my folder where I've been working. And you can see it did here at Revolution Recipe. So let's see what this looks like. Oh. Like I said, I gave it horrible styles. Oh, gosh. Okay. I gave it a horrible, color schema so you could see how, just to verify that it worked. For some reason, and I found this the case before, my font size is incredibly small. Like it's font size like 1 point font size maybe. I'm not sure why this happens, but thankfully it is certainly possible to to fix that. So let's do that because this is not really very impressive looking right now. I want to make this background color. I'm going to change this background color because that's really hard to read. I'll make it I'll make it like a light gray, and then the color. I'll make the color like a dark gray. And then I'm going to make the font size. I think what's happening is there's a disagreement between like what a pixel is between PDF Kit and the actual PDF renderer on my Mac. So you may have to play with this a bit. So I'm going to make this an enormous value and kind of see if that does what I want. I'll say 30, well, not enormous. I'll give it a pretty big value and just kind of see how that looks. Wait a second. Okay, there we go. See how that looks. Okay, yeah, we're getting somewhere. I don't like the, there's no margins. I need margins. It's still not big enough. It's still not really 36 points. That's now closer to like 8 point. So that shows me that it is still pretty far off, but I definitely don't like that background color. So I'm going to change that. I mean, I could put like margins on the background and make it look a little bit cleaner, but I'm going to make the background color fully white and make the font size 200 points. Again, I'm not sure why this happens, but it's easy enough to work around, I guess. Just keep jacking up the font size. Okay, that's probably too big finally. So that gives us a sense of the range here. But this is now at least it looks like a PDF. I think maybe something more like 150 is probably good. Also, you notice there's no title right there. So let's go ahead and add that inside the doc. We can just say H1 and recipes for Revolution. And see how that looks. So this time, okay, that's still probably a little big, but that's all right. Of course, if I really wanted to play with this, I'd give it some better fonts and do some other things. But I'm pretty happy with this as it is. It is a novel. It's readable. It's in a PDF format. It's over 50,000 words. It's 246 pages long. I mean, that's a pretty decent novel if I were to print that out. So I'm pretty happy with it. I think we got a novel here. I think I'll go ahead and add this to the NNGM submissions for this year just to have it on the record. And I'll put the code with that, and I'll put a link to that in the description for these videos. So that's it. That's how you generate a novel. Of course, these methods are pretty quick, pretty easy. If you're doing this assignment for my class, I hope that you start with these and then make them more interesting, make them more your own, make them more complicated, or do something entirely different. I just wanted you to see that it is the process of getting a novel generated and printed can be very quick. The real trick is coming up with a good idea, like anything. And so that's your challenge. See if you can come up with a good idea. I would love to see it. Thanks for watching the video. Have a good November.